welcome everyone. We're going to give everybody else just another minute and then we are going to jump right into it. Welcome to another in the series from the Pinnacle podcast. My name is Chris Nelson. I'm very happy today to have with us Rafael, a really distinguished person in the cybersecurity and AI, I should call it, industry. But I think for most of us in it, we are just having a lot of fun. So that being said, I am just going to, ask Rafael to tell us a little bit about himself. I think most people know because Rafael has so many followers all over the world. And I think for those of us who are in AI and cybersecurity, really wanted to have a conversation with somebody as fascinating as Rafael. So Rafael, tell us about the man, the myth, the legend.
Hi, Chris. Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to be here. My story, I am a Colombian, and basically I have been fascinated with technology since I was a child. Uh, in a nutshell, I am an electronical engineer. Um, I have been in the industry from the beginning, making hardware, printed circuit boards, then moving into telco, learning everything about routers, last mile, ADSL, MPLS, WAN, SD-WAN, all of these developments at the layer of the network layer. After almost 15 years in the industry, I studied an MBA and then I migrated to Canada. I worked for several companies, Telefónica Spain, Telefónica Colombia, IBM, Magna International, TD Bank, and now I'm working with Manulife. So when I migrated to Canada, I pivoted into cybersecurity directly. But I think since you get in network, you're always in cyber, no? Because you're always managing that first,
Yeah,
second, and third layer, and thinking on and security. So that's kind of
right.
my story. And I am passionate of telling my story through LinkedIn, as you said. I like to help people. Here you
Yeah,
see a logo at this side.
true
Basically,
north.
we have True North Cybersphere. That is a community that meets physically here, and every 3 months we have a virtual meeting. So I like to mentor people into cyber networking, IT. I like to help people break into these domains. And now we have AI. It seems a little bit
Right.
new, but AI is with me, I think, since university. So you can track it back at least in my history 20 years back. And
Yeah.
that's a little bit of me in a nutshell.
Well, let me ask you the question then. Um, Career path. We actually have over 270 people who signed up to participate today. I'm sure we're not going to get all of them, but a lot of people are interested. You know, First, what inspired you um, in your cybersecurity and AI journey? Like what really motivated you? And then kind of what types of skills would somebody need to get into that field? Like what would you recommend for somebody who is looking to enter into that field?
Okay, coming to your first question, I have been fascinated by technology, as I said at the beginning, and machines and everything have been close to me since I have been a child. My first computer was at 8. I remember like at 13 having my HP calculator and learning it to code it and connect it to everything. Um, I then studied electronical engineer and I went into printed circuit boards, what is called PVC. And I like it, but I was like, as everything you start, as we call it, just you start stacking on, no? And then I went into routing, telecommunications, being in IBM, cybersecurity was at the forefront. When I got into IBM, I was doing BlackBerry administration, then moving into all of the securing um, MDN, MDM solutions and IPSs. So cybersecurity became like an extension of that mindset. Yeah,
Right,
and and being a Colombian, I think also we have a security layer built from a physical security layer built from the beginning because we live in a very insecure society. I used to live, now I am at Canada. But for over 40 years, it was basically looking at your shoulder physically because people
right,
can hurt you. Yes, and
right,
then we see this evolution. Cyber and AI start appearing again in
right,
engineering, then uh, machine learning. When I was doing bachelor's, I remember seeing one signature about one class about neural networks. Then in IBM around 2010, 2011, I remember that Watson came. Uh, and then is when I started doing it professionally. I will say it was not called artificial intelligence. We used to call it cognitive computing, at least when I was IBM. So that's how we evolve basically everything on this path and coming to this like the path is very challenging and there is not one path that fits all. Like you start
right,
going in and you start seeing what you like, what are the challenges that you get, because sometimes you get into some roles and you get maybe challenges that were not on the role job description, and
right,
that's where opportunities emerge. um, so I will say to break into cyber like skills and certifications. Right now, cloud security is something that is very important. Like we need to have configuration of this cloud.
right,
We have to manage it right. It's challenging. And now we have hybrid clouds, like we have on-premise, we have many clouds supporting our solutions. Um, One of the second things I will say, and it's also not new, is AI ethics. Yeah, the ethical portion of it. I
right,
think I have been hearing from the last 10 years. Uh, People need to learn about zero trust frameworks
right,
also. And coming to my certifications, I think ISC 2 Square is very important in this journey
right,
uh, because how everything how it's evolving. Like now we don't have only CISSP, we have the CC, so people can start getting into these fundamentals
right,
that are really critical. I know AI may come, so to talk about a little bit on AI, I will say there's some good certifications on governance in AI from IAPP.
right.
Uh, so I will say that's about certifications or what I have seen, but everyone is
Right.
different. Like if you're a pen testing, maybe you will say, no, these certifications are not
Sure.
for me, and there is
Right.
other paths. No, this is not
Right.
the
Become
only
an
path.
ethical hacker. Right. The
Correct.
different paths. So I think you said it right in terms of just beginning. For those that might even want to transition into it, CC is a great opportunity, right? From ISC to certified in cybersecurity. But do you think that there are particular skill sets between somebody who is trying to get into AI or cybersecurity? Like, I know that you have different paths, but what kind of advice would you give to a student or somebody who is trying to transition into it? Or maybe like a mid-career professional who, hears AI is coming, they think it's going to be in their office. They worry about being replaced. Like, where should they start to look to get information, right? Cyber, yes, we know ISC2 is there, CompTIA, ISACA, right? But where do you look for real sources of information if you're trying to create a career path for AI? And you really want to kind of weed out, a lot of these companies that are going to say, take my course. We guarantee you success, and we know that it's not really that. Is there anything that you can share in terms of organization or somebody or some certificate that people could use to begin?
On AI, there is many, but not going into those big cloud providers like um, you can even use Udemy. I have seen a lot of good classes in
Right,
those platforms. Yeah, if you don't want to get tied to a vendor. But I always tell people that this is a long journey, so you have to learn about those vendors. Yeah, even if you're learning it not really deep, you're not going deep into the certification, it's good to do their fundamentals because there is some particularities to each cloud and AI environment that is being built by each one of them. Like each one of them has a different recipe, yeah,
right,
and is selling different things. So I will say that is one of the path. I follow IEEE. Following all the 7000 series is very interesting. So you can look for IEEE 7000. Um, Always NIST. Yeah, there is there is a framework on NIST basically that is driving the industry. So you have to learn through NIST.
right,
I know it's very tied to US, but there and then go and look into regulations. Yeah,
right,
Europe. You have to learn about regulations because this is going. This is a big change. I see this like when we were starting on environmental sustainability and governance, ESG. This is
right,
like the Wild West right now. So you have to learn from a lot of places. Yes, you have to learn how to do prompting. Uh, there is many ways, and that keeps evolving. So you have to maintain that knowledge at the forefront. And keep that connection and also communities. And there is a lot of communities that are being created specifically into AI. I just met with someone this week, Norman Valdez, he's from Canada, and they're doing really amazing stuff with AI on, and social impact. So there is a lot of resources there available. In my case, I started with the responsible AI from IBM. You can look at their skill certification program. But
right,
I also have done the AWS, I done the Azure one, uh, and you learn different things because each one has a different approach. And since this is an area that is being created right now in many aspects, you need to be like learning from several sources, I will say.
right. So would you say, like, if we were looking at things like industry trends, like, is there anything you could share in terms of how has the cybersecurity landscape changed over the last 5 years, especially with the rise of AI, right? Because there are many people who feel, well, I'm already certified in cyber and I'm okay. I don't need to do anything else. But what kind of changes do you see that may be happening?
Okay, the first one, and I think that everyone that is getting into technology is feeling it. There is more information that we can handle. That's the first thing that I have seen. Uh, One of the biggest change. I used to be able to read and have time to consume and sleep over, Right now, you're just sleeping over something, and then comes a new technology that is overriding whatever you were thinking. Um, the attacks, as everyone have seen, they have been evolving very rapidly.
Right.
Uh, so everyone is now more have more exposure to all of these AI driving attacks that are driving by this new technology, unfortunately, because this is enabling both sides. No, this is the technology that is coming and everyone is using it. Um, Also,
So,
I have seen a lot of changes, sorry, on the path on how companies are driving their predictive defenses. Yeah,
right.
that have been growing really fast in the last, I will say, 2 years, and we have seen a pickup on that area. Yeah, sorry.
Can you expand on that in terms of predictive um, defenses?
Yeah, you have now not only predictive analytics on the firewall, and now you are seeing how your traffic behave, your people behave. Like um, we're having this zero trust mindset, so we're we're basically authenticating in every step of the way, and we're also tracking the behaviors of the users. Yeah, and we're able to catch and help the humans, because everyone says that the human is the weakest link, but that's unfair. Yeah, like that's a strategic failure to say that of technology. So we have to put our defenses up. So there is a lot of things on email that have been evolving. We have seen a lot of things pick up on the EDR space. Uh, so all of that have been evolving in combination with what we're seeing, that is the evolution of the SOC, of the Security Operations Center.
So, how would you say that they're the organizations, apart from predictive, how are organizations finding it to change their strategy? Like, what's changing in the marketplace or in the industry to deal with these threats? Because I've seen recently an uptick in more people with AI skills being hired. Or I think historically, like cloud, when you were in IT, that you had to begin to learn about cloud and cloud security. So I think either you are going to be forced to get into that space or be left behind. Um, which comes back to an interesting area of ethics, which we will touch on, that I know you're passionate about, right? But how are companies adapting or changing, right? We have things like the rise of deep fakes, we have AI generated content, right? How is an individual and business going to protect against that? And I look at it from the context of, even with cybersecurity and IT, we talk about IT audits and cyber audits. Are there AI audits? Is there normally when you hire, like, the big four, big five, you have these teams coming in. But are we doing AI audits? Like, who is watching the people who are creating this content? Is that happening now?
Yes, it's happening. Uh, it's coming slow. As you know, there is the ISO 47001. Uh, but yes, there is few players that have been certified on that. Just talking about the Fortune 500, I only have five as top of mind,
Right.
and are one of those big providers. Outside of that, Grammarly, I saw it that it got that certification. So there is some audit efforts, but that's picking up. So companies are just on that process, or some companies can be creating the consoles. Some others have been more at the forefront, and they already have frameworks, policies, standards. But everyone is starting on this journey. Even evaluating risk is very, very strange. Yeah, because we're relying on these third and fourth parties that are using these big models, because
Right.
not everyone is using those um, open source models. And so there is a lot of changes. I see a pickup on awareness again. So cyber, I put the awareness part on the top of the mindset of the executive. I see AI coming there. It's gonna be like a little brother. And so we're seeing AI awareness. We're seeing companies do this push to basically put these tools in hands on their employees. Some companies go to a
Right.
broader approach. They just develop secure Gen AI for the whole population. Some other ones goes in layers. No one knows what is going to be the right approach. And also there is a right approach for every company, because every company has a culture. So listening at one company doing this and try to follow that cannot be the right path for you. So, you have to, every company is evaluating what is happening, how it's
Right.
impacting them, and and pushing on these zero trust architectures. I see it coming again. It's like that homework that you left half undo, and you
Right.
have to come back to it.
So who owns this though, Rafael? Like, cyber is the CISO and, IT has it. It's, are there specific leaders within organizations now in terms of titles, like departments? What's the inner workings for those people who are already in AI? What does an AI division look like?
I have not seen one that is mature enough to be
Right,
able to answer how it looks like,
right,
but you see a pickup on these terms, industry terms, like the chief uh, artificial intelligence officer or chief ethical officer. Or,
right,
it depends on the approach on the industry and the company, but it's being created in different parts. Yes, the CISO sometimes is the one who is bringing it or who is working on it, because normally the functions of us, the risk
yeah,
management functions are under the CISO in the cybersecurity part, and also the chief risk officer are coming at this very hard.
right,
Yeah. So I don't see it right now mature enough, but yes, there is some roles, there is some consoles, there is some COEs basically being created to manage this. But everyone is learning.
yeah. Would you agree that it's falling under more governance, risk compliance area? I mean, I know that, marketing and IT is going to be driving it, but who would be overseeing it to make sure, once we're speaking about ethics, is that going to be like a GRC that's going to be looking after that? Like, I know it's not in a mature state, but if you had to put it somewhere, where would you put it?
There is some capabilities that will be run by GRC
Yeah,
functions for sure. Yeah, because they are the ones that are gonna start are being building this for a while, and they are
right,
building over this. So GRC is part of it, but there is also a lot of technology involved with companies that are developing Gen AI inside, that are using AI, that are leveraging all of these capabilities.
right. So do you think, as somebody who has been there and has seen the history, like what do you see as the future trends for cybersecurity and then for AI? Like for people who are listening or watching, like where do you see cyber in, let's say, the next 5 years?
It's a little bit hard to predict, but cyber is going to keep evolving. It's going to incorporate all of these capabilities, including quantum, that is coming very hard on the encryption domain. Um, I keep adding the ethics part. Yeah, ethical governance needs to play one of the biggest part in all of these AI capabilities that are being built. And also I see a shift on how we have been integrating with machines. We have been using machines and we have been working with machines in a different way. Now we need to start thinking on terms like orchestrations, yeah, orchestrating agents. So I will think orchestration of agents is one of the biggest things that are gonna come up.
Right.
Uh, Also, we are all expecting a lot of push in regulatory part, so there is gonna be a lot of AI regulatory compliance, and and we need to pivot on that part that I was talking, that human machine interaction that is
Right.
changing, and it's going to be changing in the next 5 years very fast. uh,
So I know that ethics is a very big component of AI, and making sure that the guardrails are there. What I do find interesting is that for those that study cyber, that's one of the first things that you focus on, right? The ethics of being a cyber professional. But I've also seen it in several quarters, the concerns about AI, whether or not you are the government that's implementing some system that's going to make it faster for you to get your driver's license or your health card. But what about the privacy, right? What about how things are used, whether or not, facial recognition, all of these areas. So can you kind of share about some of the ethical concerns that exist that you're aware of or we should be aware of?
yes, one of the first one is privacy. Since we're working with this same data, we're now feeding it to a different system. There is a privacy erosion that is happening when this data is coming into these models. Um, we have seen how nation states are somehow abusing of surveillance. Yeah. Um, we have also the bias that algorithms can have embedded in how they have been created. And that's the other thing. We have been using all of these models training data that was there that had good information and not so good information. I know that there's a lot of efforts on building some new custom models, but we need to be aware of that bias. Um, Another ethical concern is just talking about what is happening on my current area is accountability. Yeah, we're gonna start using these tools, but you cannot come to regulators and say, "Hey, no, I took this decision because the tool told me." Yeah, so we need to do the work really good. Yeah, because we cannot replace a human for something that is gonna bring us more risk. Uh, so this have to go slow uh, and
Right.
it have to be done on the right way. Yeah, so you cannot push into so many use cases depending. There is some use cases that can be more easily handled. Yeah, but there is some areas talking back to GRC where you have to sometimes slow down. No? You have to do it right. You cannot just run because you need to run.
Right.
You need to first crawl and then start walking and then running. So I know there is a lot of push in the market, but we need to have in mind that accountability is not throwing everything to machines. Yeah, if the machine is not gonna do it right, you cannot do that. Yeah, like it's gonna decrease the service that you're giving to your customers, or it's gonna change something really big in your business. So that accountability gap is something you have to have in mind. And the other part that I have been reading a lot lately is human rights. Yeah, human rights violations. Yeah, AI misuse. I just read this news. It was someone here in Canada that it was called Mr. Deepfakes. Yeah, and it was a Gen AI generated porn site. Yeah, that it was using all of these public faces and and this was in a human right violation, yeah, and these things needs regulations, and you cannot get just your picture or my picture from LinkedIn that is publicly available,
Right.
and just generate a deep fake, yeah. uh, there have to be some new rules, yeah, even criminal rules. So we need to become more prescriptive also on that civil part, yeah. So there is a lot of concerns right now with this technology. I have been
Right.
talking, I have been trying to talk a little bit broad on the subject, but yes, is even the easy videos that we create with pictures are generating a big change on society.
So I guess we're then speaking about like governments and regulatory bodies who may have to intervene or should begin to put things in place to monitor this, right? Because there's going to be a certain level of responsibility that an organization is going to have with people's data and privacy, right? But also, if you have my image and then it's used in a particular way without my consent through AI, I think the government has to begin to create their rules. But what about governments? Because we've already seen this in cybersecurity, um, and data, like GDPR. Have you heard that AI is now has a different set of rules in the European Union versus California versus Canada, right? Are those
Correct.
conversations already on the way, or is GDPR stronger? Does it have an AI component? Anything that you could share on that? I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but I know you have all of this.
No, yeah, but yeah, it's like an onion. I see that we're just adding layers, yeah, and yes, we're taking the California law. We're seeing everything from the draft before it becomes a bill, and we're trying to get ahead of the game. Look at the what every region is doing. Even if a company is not operating in any single region, yeah, you start thinking on, I don't know, Singapore. Yeah, it's a
Right.
top of mind that they have a lot of maturity in something. So you start seeing where things are more mature, and you try to leverage through that. Yeah. And there's a lot of frameworks outside, like the OECD, the AI principle. We have the EU ethic guidelines, and we have all of these NIST AI RMF, yeah, the
Right.
risk management framework. And basically, like everything is being leveraged inside the companies. Like everyone is taking this into account. We can
Right.
normally regulation follows what companies are doing, but then they come to enforce it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and to make it to to make the clear rules on how to play with this technology. Yeah.
So I think because you spent so much time in it, there's so many changes. Like for example, at ISC2, when you used to do the CISSP exam, it used to be, I think, like 400 questions over 6 hours. Um, Now they have a process that helps you to learn, for self-paced. It's called adaptive learning, which helps you to learn faster, but also the algorithms that are used when you're being tested. But you know, the thing about algorithms that you hope that the data that's going into it has gone through the process that takes into consideration all of the people who are taking the exam, because the interpretation from one country to another, right, is different. The words that you use are different. Like one of the exam questions, that comes up all the time is about physical security. Is a door physical security? And the answer, no. It has to be a door lock, right? And a simple thing like that can make you fail, but there are many people who come from different countries that, as long as there's a door, it's locked, right? You don't have to go that granular. So with AI and how we construct it, um, and the whole ethics of building out programs and different things. Have you ever faced any kind of ethical dilemma?
Ethical dilemmas. I think that's from the beginning. I'm just gonna think on my almost 15 years back. Yeah.
Right,
And yes, 15 years back, we used to have forensics in laptops, and I remember getting a laptop when I was working, and one of the persons that was working close to me told me, "Oh, here we have some personal images and things that they should not be in this machine." By then, we didn't have like privacy officers or things like that, and this machine was from a coworker, a friend. Yeah. But we need to send it to HR. That's the procedure. Yeah. And by then, right now, we may go to the privacy office or something different. But it was hard. It was hard to choose. Yeah. Like you have friendship, but you have also processes. You have things that are there. And we're doing a forensics. Yeah. Even in
right,
2017, when WannaCry, coming a little bit more into cyber, when WannaCry happened, I think it was May 2017. Maybe people with Google can get the exact date. Uh, but basically, I was in a meeting in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, and basically, I started receiving calls. First, it was X-Force because basically that first massive attack, I remember it was like 200,000 computers. It was like the biggest one, at least the first one that I intervened, and this was no more than 8 years ago.
right,
Um, and basically, after I received this call, uh, we were basically on a critical stage. So we were running our playbooks. Yeah, whatever we had planned, we were running it that day. Yeah, and it was not even in the office. We were in a vendor side, and everyone was running. And then you start getting calls from friends that were working on those companies. Yeah. And
right,
what is happening? No, I don't know. Yeah. You cannot reveal anything. Like you have to keep working, and PR was the one who has to handle everything by then. So we were getting the latest data from our people on ground. Yeah. And I was in Brazil who got impacted, and many companies were impacted, and we were working with them. And basically, you have to basically choose. So ethical dilemmas are going to be in every step of the way. Yeah. And
right.
there's, so yeah, we have to learn to deal with that. And I will say we need also awareness of that. Uh, Ethics is in the forefront on all of this AI.
Well, I just want everyone here to know if they have any questions that they can put in the chat. Um, does anybody have anything that they want to ask Rafael? Any questions? Any feedback? Chat is now open. Okay. So anybody has any questions, you could just type it in the chat. As we are looking at that, Rafael, one last question. So I know that when you spoke about NIST, we've spoken about ISO. Is there any particular frameworks or principles that you could say that an organization can adapt or should begin to look at adapting, especially as it relates to human rights?
Yeah, to human rights is the OECD. Yeah, that's one of the ones you have to follow. And then we have
Right,
NIST. Like looking at NIST is always a great guide. And coming back to the IEEE, the 7000 series
right,
is something that helped me figure out a lot of things that other guidelines and frameworks are not giving you insights into, because you have a more engineering mindset. Yeah, and
okay.
sometimes helps feed technology easier into what you're doing. but also depends on the area. Yeah. So
Right.
yeah, like if
You
you're
have to
in the
factor that in.
GRC, yeah, RMF can be the way with
Okay.
NIST. But if you're in the technical area, I will say look at IEEE 7000 series. I love it. Yeah, like it's something
All
that
right.
have helped me solve a lot of things.
So a couple of questions coming in. What is the best way to learn how to use AI when moving forward in advancement? What's the best way to learn how to use AI? I guess it's the path again that we're looking at.
The path. First, you need to learn how the DNA go to the fundamentals. Yeah, like
Yeah,
I always encourage people that yes, AI is this at the forefront, but you need to learn the fundamentals of it.
right,
If you have the minds, like you can even go into math and analytics. Yeah,
right,
and and then after that, it's just about curiosity. Yeah, you need to learn prompting. Now you need to learn new frameworks that are being created. It depends on the path that you're following, because if you want to follow cloud and you want to become maybe a cybersecurity engineer in cloud, you're going to have some really particular things and like yeah,
that
like
are specific to that area, right?
correct
Yeah, no, no,
terraforms and
I agree with you.
yeah. So it's a little bit of challenge, but if you look in your particular domain, there is a lot of available resources and communities and all of these summits that are happening around the world, being
Right,
virtual and physical, is a good way to connect with this and and following these big organizations. Yeah.
all right.
OWASP is another organization that is leading its way to finding all of this, generating all of these frameworks. I will say LinkedIn is a good way to learn it. Follow some people that are basically trying these technologies. Um, and
Lots of
universities right now have a lot of resources. Yeah, like you
Yeah,
can.
there are lots of resources that are out there. I think one of the questions also is Ibrahim is saying, what do you think about AI phishing advancements, especially recently? Right? How critical is that? And I should say we have quite a few questions. So, any thoughts about phishing with AI?
Yeah, no, phishing had been advancing very much because just talking about email phishing, uh, now you get emails that are perfect. Yeah,
Right,
like they're really perfect. Like they have copied all of the letters, images, everything. You don't even have typos.
right,
Yes, there is still other things that you keep looking at it. Yeah, like the domains and what is the email and put your mouse over it and if you doubt, yeah, go through another channel. But phishing
right,
have been evolving very, very fast. Today I was very surprised. I received a phishing attempt, and, and basically I reported. And it was a phishing attempt of someone wanting to share a file with me. Yeah,
right,
everything was perfect on it. Yeah, everything was built how I will expect it. Yeah, but there is still signs. Yeah, like I don't know. I don't
Need
work with that one right now.
always the
Yeah,
basics there, right? And I
yeah,
think that's what's happening now, that the awareness team has now got to look at the AI component. So, right, recognizing the images and telling the difference between the type of images. Another thing that came up is, are there any books you would suggest? Any particular book that you've read on AI that you think would be a good read?
books and AI. I don't really have one top of mind right now. Uh, I will recommend. I have been reading a lot of reports. Uh, so uh, unfortunately, I don't have anything to recommend here, and I will be,
I yeah,
yeah,
I agree. There's just so much material out there. Look for the stars that are beside it and see how many people.
I will recommend reading what is happening in OWASP. Yeah, like all
Right.
of the machine learning, because everyone think about AI, yeah, but machine learning is what is below, yeah. And we
True.
have created this machine learning
Right.
algorithm that is
Get
able to
into the
predict.
basics, right?
Yeah,
Understand that looking at what's in your environment, even the navigation system in your car, right? How is it going to remember that that's where you go every Tuesday for your cup of coffee, and the transition from machine learning into artificial intelligence, right? Look at how we're using all of these tools every day without even being aware of it, right? So you have different sources that are there, but OWASP was a good point. We have a question. I think the Dimitri, I hope I pronounced it right? Saying he's done his CompTIA Security Plus, AWS as cloud practitioner, cloud technologist, but still, how do I get a job in cybersecurity even as an entry level? And I get that question all the time. Rafael, you've been placing people also and trying to. So what
yeah,
should somebody who is believes they are certified, they're doing the studies, but is still finding it difficult to get even an entry level position? What do you suggest?
yes. Even there is some difference if you're talking different countries. Everyone that gets into cyber, they need to understand that they are in the trust business. Yeah. So that's one of the biggest change I have seen. So from when I break into IT and when I break into telcos and those things, what I see that is you have to basically network in a way to create that network of trust. Yeah. When I migrated, I used to call it like the social capital. Yeah. Uh, Building that social capital with people that are in this industry is a must right now. And we cannot look away. Uh, there is some challenges in the market. I know there is some gaps, and people is talking about all of these positions that are being open. But we need to understand that cybersecurity is a very broad area. Yeah, like
Right.
when maybe you're not able to get jobs in GRC, you may be seeing right now, I don't know, something top of mind, operation technology, OT, what I used to
Right.
manage in Magna International. So there is not people there, uh, enough people there. So you see some parts of the market that gets filled and some others that doesn't get filled. But you need
Yeah.
to get that networking going
I
because this
think
is a trust business. Yeah.
so. Again, your point is correct about networking, right? Get yourself out there. You know, IC2 has that great program, CC, Certified in Cybersecurity. You can become part of a network where you're meeting every month with a few hundred other cyber professionals. Sometimes opportunities come up. You can say, hey, I see you work at that company. Could you put in a good word for me? So network, 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 right? But also remember, the interview is a big part of it. Just having things on paper is one aspect. But once that door opens, make sure that you're prepared for that interview, that you have done your research on the organization, that you looked prepared for that position, that you want it, and you have all of your facts together. So um, it's the struggle. There's a lot of demand for cyber people, and even entry level, but there's a disconnect between filling these roles. And I know that there are companies working on it. One of the questions I think is Nabish Abbas says, when talking about rules, regulations for AI and talking about GDPR, do we think the Western countries are taking privacy risk related to AI lightly compared to the European Union?
Yeah. That is a question that you get a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to understand that every country has a different way of doing business. Yeah. And yes, the European Union have been at the forefront of protecting their citizens.
Right.
Yeah, and that is basically like going over AI, and basically it's not that it's taking it lighter the Western coast countries, but we have different government structures. So yes, Europe
Yeah.
is leading the way, yeah, and we're following some things, but we have a lot of good things that are happening here. You talk about California law, so there is a lot of things that you can bring up that are happening here also. We're learning. We may be doing differently, yeah. You can talk more about Canada. Even being
Right.
a partner with US, Canada does things differently because it's an economy that is smaller than the
Right.
US one, and it has to work in a different way, even in a more protective way sometimes compared to the US. No, so
True.
yeah,
So let me say that, and Sitke is saying, what do you think about the future of machine learning and what kind of precautions that we can take to protect ourselves from AI? And do you really think the Terminator movie will be real? Are humans going to be going up against machines?
I don't. I hope to not think that's gonna be what we're building. Yeah. But with any innovation, there is always a possibility of getting it wrong. Yeah, and this
Yeah.
is a very powerful technology. And I know we have been talking a lot about AI and everything is the new hype world.
Right.
But but the thing is that this is a very powerful technology. And yes, we're relating to those movies because we have created everything that we have done in sci-fi. No?
Right.
So we
Because we
always
see it
have
and then we create it, right? And that's why
correct.
it's so interesting, because the flip phone used to be on Star Trek 50 years ago, right? And then all of a sudden, so it's almost like we somebody does the artistic component and we then begin to build it out afterwards, right? It's almost like somebody draws a car and then we put the engine in there. So we're in a very interesting space with that.
Yeah,
Just
but
because we don't
but
have that much time, I'm just going to jump into another question, where Nabib says, can we quantify the privacy risk posed by the new open or the new Gen I technologies? And what should be the approach when talking to upper management? How do we address upper management or senior leaders about the risk?
yes, this is a challenge right now on the market. Yeah. We have everything that it was brought by privacy and that is already in place that is helping us because it's the same data. And we have been using that data in algorithms, machine learning. Right? This is not new for us. What is new is the component of getting this generative AI
Right,
working in the business. So it's risky. There is some things that we have been starting to follow right now. There is some guidances, some control design uh, that you can follow. Operating effectiveness, as you said, ISO 7001 is just coming out, so you can even assess it
right,
in in few vendors. But we're gonna see a pickup on that and audit report. I think just the companies that were authorized were certified in 2024. So we have seen only 1 year of evolution on this. So
right.
quantification is coming. We're able to do the due diligence. There's ways to do it.
Okay,
There is also this AI bomb, AI business bill of materials that you can start using to do some internal stuff. So I will encourage you to look at AI bomb, AI bill of materials, um, but it's new. So we're all
right.
learning. Yeah, there is ways to quantify it, but it's challenging. We're learning.
So Rena is asking, what would the impact of AI be on cybersecurity?
AI is impacting. cybersecurity like two ways. Yeah, we have AI for delivering security. Yeah, and we have security for AI. Yeah, for securing AI. So in cybersecurity, you have always those two sides of the coin. Internally, we're seeing it leveraging in every single area. Yeah, like it's not only on the technology side, GRC side is moving really fast on it. I'm seeing all of these companies from the last RSA that basically are getting founded, that are building on top of automating risk using
Right.
all of this Gen AI tooling. So that is a new area that is being created, and all of the old areas are being revamped somehow with these new capabilities. So you see coming to the security operations center, what I
Yeah.
see is that basically we're gonna be coming to into a new phase where you're gonna see human orchestrating agents, yeah, and
Right.
scaling through agents. So that's gonna be one of the biggest changes I see that is happening right now.
Okay.
Uh, yeah.
So, uh, Ronaldo, first of all, he says thank you for the clear explanation about the benefits and risk of AI. He says Canada created a new AI ministry in April. I'm not sure if you're going to head that up. You probably be the best person. But would it be the first step to regulate AI?
The first step to regulate AI is building we need a group of experts to start leading the way through this. Yeah, uh, even cooperating. That's something that we need to bring to the table. Yeah, uh,
Right,
bring cooperations. I always see these Nordic countries in Europe basically leading the ways in some areas, and they're willing to cooperate. So I think we have to bring the experts to the table. This is a new area, and sometimes like the government is going to be the articulator, but we need to hear the industry. You need to sense what is happening. And we are in a very particular stage right now where AI is going to be basically the driver of so many changes in society, coming from health, construction. Everything is going to be impacted. So consultations, working with experts is the first step that you have to
right.
listen.
So, you know, they have asked, a couple of people have asked about any courses or information. So we will share that afterwards, about different courses, information you can get about AI. And we will definitely be sending out a link to the recording afterwards. But we just want to say to Rafael, we thank you for the time that you have shared your expertise today. When we have our series of podcasts, it's really hard to get somebody of your stature, and we truly appreciate the time that you've taken today, and we appreciate everyone who has taken the time to attend today. And we encourage you to register to be part of even more of these sessions, and look forward to more materials that will be shared with you. So, Rafael, thank you so very much for being here today, and thank you our visitors, and we call them our guests, for being here.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you for our guests for being here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.